Folks, Coach Patrick here from Endurance Nation. Welcome back to another weekly Coaches Chat podcast. This is where we basically hang out and talk to our team. As an introduction, Endurance Nation is the world's largest and fastest online triathlon team with the 2013 and 2014 Ironman Tri-Club World Champions, home of the free 7-day trial, creators of the first time finish program and the 4 keys to race execution. We guarantee that you're going to finish your first big race with us, or we will pay your next entry fee. Learn more about us online at endurancestation.us. Now, tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about body composition. I am, as a disclaimer, I am not a professional nutritionist or dietitian or anyone else who's in any way should be construed to give you medical advice, other than someone who's been hacking away at my body composition since heaven only knows when. And hold on a second here. Make sure you guys can actually get me in. All right. And now when I talk about body composition in particular, the reason that it's important for me is, in case you can't tell, hiding behind my big, bulky, I'm so sensitive about my body composition sweatshirt. It's a challenge for me. It's a challenge for all of us. Body composition is a sort of a really unique tool in our arsenal as triathletes. It's not something that people think about. But we're going to kind of dive in a little bit deeper tonight from the perspective of the out season, of the winter, and try and give you guys some ideas and some tips on how you can make the most of the extended timeline that we have between now and when your races start, to make sure that you're in an optimal place when the season really kicks in, and then also when race day arrives, so you're a pretty happy camper. Okay. Before I dive in super duper deep, just a quick update on what's going on with the team, Team Endurance Nation. A bunch of people raced Cozumel now 2 weeks ago, which was fantastic. And we had quite a few people in Philly as well at the marathon there. So congratulations to all of you. Many of you also are participating in our Secret Santa program. I believe we have over 150 people participating this year, which is awesome. I've already shipped my gift off. Thank you, Amazon, for helping me do that. And hopefully the rest of you are also, being diligent Secret Santas as you participate along. It's one of the neat traditions that we have. I'm getting lots of requests in the forums about what to do with that sort of the evil week between the Christmas holiday and the New Year's holiday here in the US, when most things are shut down or you're traveling, it's hard to train. There's resources for you in the wiki, and I'll also be doing some additional posts and Q&A about that as the weeks go on. Okay, so don't sweat it. We've got it, settled. Please don't, ruin your holidays by forcing your family to, have a Christmas tree and then your bike and the trainer right next to it while you watch some Sufferfest videos or something like that, and just make everyone feel generally really uncomfortable. So we'll definitely take care of you. So that said, let's get this puppy started, and I'll come back. All right. So those of you who are tuning in tonight, thank you so much. First of all, if you have questions, etc., I'm going to be talking now for about 10 minutes about body composition. If you have questions, for those of you on the team, you're in the chat window, you go ahead and put your questions up. I'll come back and grab them at the end. Those of you who are watching this later on, whether you're on social media or whatever, just go ahead and put the hashtag in there of WorkWorks, or you can also go ahead and just do the @TeamEN to reach Endurance Nation, and we'll follow up with you down the road as well. All right. So body composition in baby steps. I like to think about baby steps because I feel like so many of us have incredible stuff to learn about nutrition. And I say that not from the perspective of you don't know what you're doing in nutrition, but I say that in the perspective of there's so much to learn about what body composition means for you as an athlete. And the unique thing about body composition is that it's never the same. So in year one, you can see some success by perhaps, cutting out sugar or maybe dialing in some sports nutrition. And then, year two, you see some success doing something differently, maybe working on hydration, or, one of my big secrets is eliminating the late night snack. So it's one of those things that sort of evolves with you as an athlete, and it really fluctuates according to the time of year, your commitment or your focus, your ability to handle the additional mental cost of managing nutrition and so on. So I feel like it's something that people don't really talk about. We see You go to race weekend and you see everyone show up, and there's some crazy fit people out there. They're just like, abs everywhere. They got abs up here, they got abs over here, delts, everything. And you're like, oh my God, these people are so fit. It's not that those people are super fit because they've made some awesome choices about nutrition and fueling and recovery. Some of them have, undoubtedly, but many of them have probably not made great decisions as well. And so when I talk about nutrition, and specifically nutrition and baby steps, this talk is not entitled how to cheat your nutrition or how to trick your body into losing 20 pounds in 5 days or something. This is about more sustainable, holistic nutrition from a broader perspective. It's meant to be a starting point for those of you on the team and those of you tuning in. And you're always welcome to dig deeper, whether you're with someone in your area who's a certified nutritionist, or if you're working with our partners over at the Core Diet, thecorediet.com. All right, so why do we consider body composition? I don't think people think about body composition because it's fun. I certainly don't. I would be one of the first people to tell you that one of the reasons why I work out is because I enjoy eating. Not that I enjoy binge eating or going crazy, but I actually like my food. I like to eat. Not that I connect my exercise as work with food as reward, but I understand the equation, I understand how calories work, and I enjoy eating. So for me, I like to focus on body composition because I believe there's only so much work you can do. Running endurance, lots of time on my hands. I've got a very flexible schedule outside of my kids' activities and school hours and school plays and school meetings and everything else that goes on, community volunteerism and things like that. And so despite that flexible schedule, despite my ability of, not having to get up at 4 a.m. to work out, I get up at 5 and things like that. I still have found that there's just a personal limit I have to the amount of work I can do. I've done training camps where I've got nothing to do with train, which really sucks being away from my family. Those are effective tools, but even there, I find that I have a limit of bandwidth. I just can no longer continue to do work. And so for me, I like to look at nutrition as something that I can work on that doesn't require, sweating, showering, changing clothes, buying more equipment, or anything like that. It's something I can do anytime I want to be serious about it, no matter where I am. All right. Second element about why we choose body composition is you can only recover from so much work. So there's some people out there who will do insane amounts of training. You've probably seen them on social media or Twitter or elsewhere. And when you dive into it and start to see what's going on, you find out that a lot of these people are kind of cheating themselves. They're not going to get proper recovery. At which point, it's like having a cup, but your cup overfloweth with workouts, with training stress. And eventually that starts to really eat away at you and cause breakdown problems, overuse injuries, just general health malaise, constantly sick because your immune system is compromised and so on. Okay? Another reason that I like to focus on body composition is because the improvements are really noticeable right away. Many of us have food habits, good or bad, and then making changes to them will instantly change how you feel about your body and so on. It may take a day or two depending on what changes that you're making, but odds are you'll feel the changes pretty quickly. And they're healthy, positive changes most often. And so I enjoy the body composition change because it's not like, it doesn't have a sexy feeling of like, hey, I just bought a new bike. I had this old bike and then I got rid of it and I got this new bike. It's not the same as that, but it's definitely a deeper, more positive feeling for me to focus on my body composition. And then finally, in that same vein, you get lifelong benefits of working on body composition. Eating more healthily in conjunction with the exercise that you're doing and taking care of your body just makes you a happier triathlete. It also makes you live longer. You're healthier, you live longer, and so on. And so one of the reasons that many people get into triathlon or running or whatever your gateway sport was to the endurance sports world, many of you joined because of needing to monitor perhaps your cholesterol or just watching your general body composition or whatever it was. So I like to think about focusing on your nutrition as one of those sort of bigger macro level steps, like does swimming faster for 100 make you a better person overall? I don't know. You could argue that it does make you healthier overall, But I would argue that the nutrition piece complements your workouts. It complements how you sleep. It complements, if you train 10 hours a week, it complements the other 96% of your week when you're alive and not training. I think there's a lot of downstream positive impacts with nutrition, okay? So how do we do this? How do we start? What I think about, first of all, is determining a reasonable goal. One of the biggest challenges around body composition is that people like to make just big, outrageous, sweeping changes. Very few people say, like, I want to lose 2 pounds. Like, that's not like the kind of thing people will. Sometimes I wonder if people wait until things get really bad. So then they say, I'm going to lose 200 pounds or I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Odds are that's not the case, but sometimes you do wonder. And so when you think about dealing with your body composition and the changes there, and we're talking about changing your body, and it takes time. And it's also a big undertaking. It's a lot of work. It involves exercise and proper nutrition and recovery. It's not just, you can't just buy something and you get better the next day. Okay, so I want you to determine a reasonable goal. How do we do that inside Industrialization? We recommend that you divide your weight in pounds by your height in inches, and that will give you a figure, that will give you a ratio. So if you're 150 pounds, okay, and you are 6'3", so you're 150 and you're 6'3", 6'3" is 75 inches. 150 divided by 75 is 2. The ratio that we're looking for is under 2.5. 2 is pretty damn skinny. I'd say between 2.5 and about 2.2 is the target ratio we're looking for. For those of you at home, I'll pause for a second here for station identification and a quick drink while you do the math on your weight in pounds divided by your height in inches. I like this metric because we can start to compare everybody across the spectrum. Everybody wants to lose weight, and as I mentioned a few seconds ago, everybody will want to pick some astronomical number. Like, who wants to lose 2 pounds? Why don't we just all lose 10? Like, that seems like a challenge. That may not be the best thing for you. So do the math on the equation. Find out where you fit in that window. If you're above 2.5, then you certainly have some weight to lose. If you're between 2.5 and 2.2, then it's really up to you. You're not sort of in a terrible place with your body composition, and you have some more bandwidth. Although it doesn't say that positive, healthy nutrition choices, maybe making some good changes in your diet, may not yield better return on your workouts or better recovery or what have you. But you're not necessarily in the game to lose weight from a performance perspective, unless you're really looking at the super duper pointy end of that spectrum. Okay. It's also important to set that kind of a benchmark because you want to feel progress. For me, going back and taking a look at that metric, your height probably not going to change very often. Or at least I hope your height doesn't change often. But you can go back and measure that metric. I like looking at that metric. It's not something that people would look at every day. But people do tend to get on the scale every day, and that's a very arbitrary metric in terms of your body composition. Even if you have one of those special scales or what have you, your weight is going to fluctuate drastically throughout the week, even at the same time of day, even after the same amount of exercise or lack of exercise or whatever. It depends on what you've eaten the last 24 hours, how you've exercised, and everything. And so even just weighing yourself at, the minute you wake up every single day of the week doesn't tell you very much, and also doesn't really do a good job of necessarily creating the habits or influencing the behaviors that we want. So I prefer bigger things, maybe weigh yourself once a week, maybe, look at this number maybe once a month as a target for you to review. But I'm not so worried about, I don't want you to be like treating yourself like a high school wrestler and weighing yourself every day. Something doesn't yield a good, healthy set of decision-making processes, okay? So the third part, we've talked about why we want to do body composition, and we've talked about determining a reasonable goal, which again, a recap, weight in pounds divided by height in inches. Looking for between 2.5 and 2.2 as a ratio. The third element of this is to pace yourself for incremental change. And I say incremental change because you're essentially asking your body to change. It's used to a status quo. It's used to a certain amount of food or types of food at certain times of the week and certain times of the day. And now you're going to be changing some of that up, and there's going to be some friction. It doesn't sound like much. If you say, hey, I'm going to take away all my tortilla chips, my body's not going to go into shock. But if you took away all your coffee, your body certainly would. And food in general, all forms of food are in some way, shape, or form kind of like a drug, like caffeine. Especially for athletes, your body responds to the sugars in the food, to the carbohydrates. There's different times of day when you enjoy eating different types of food. Perhaps food is a reward for workouts for you. What does it mean to take that reward away? All sorts of things that you may use food for that you don't normally think of, but may become apparent through this process. So the way I like to think about incremental change, a little mantra I have called +1, eliminate 2. Okay, what I mean by that is start with something positive. A lot of times people will say when they think about body composition, they're like, no more ice cream ever. I could sign up for that. I've done that to myself. The first time I was trying to get serious and qualify for Hawaii, I took away ice cream for a long time, no dessert for like months. And then the next year, I just couldn't take it anymore. I had some dessert, not a ton of dessert, but I had dessert, and I still qualified for Kona again, even with dessert. It was possible. And so, like that theory of no dessert or dessert kind of went out the window. There's other places I can find my calories. So try to be mindful of that stuff. So instead of getting into a place where we're kind of punishing ourselves or chastising ourselves for making bad decisions, let's insert some positive choices into our day, which as a result, simply by existing, by proxy, will make some positive changes and hopefully eliminate some of those negative habits or foods that you're trying to get rid of. Okay, so healthy additional options include adding a healthy snack or a healthy meal, or both. So if you're worried about maybe raiding the office, vending machine mid-morning, instead of saying never eat a candy bar again, you can say I'm going to bring a piece of fruit for my mid-morning snack every day this week. Go out and buy 5 apples, 2 apples and 2 bananas, or and a couple oranges. I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe in the afternoon you say I'm going to have a handful of nuts, maybe as part of my snack with some protein in it, whatever it is. So you're inserting something healthy into a space that eliminates something that's not so healthy just by virtue of being there. Another option is improving your exercise nutrition. So you can add more calories and add more nutrition to your workout scenario. If your workouts are better fueled, they'll be better workouts. There's less tendency to kind of binge, recover food, eat afterwards, makes for a better workout. Again, it's a positive change. Another option for you is to add a glass of water. This is one of my favorites. Add a glass of water for every glass of wine or every cup of coffee that you have. So if you're like me, you enjoy drinking coffee, and coffee at the end of the day is a diuretic. It really dehydrates you. And the amount of coffee you drink in a day commensurately also dehydrates you as well. So it's hard to say, I'm going to go out and have an awesome 2-hour run today, when you've also gone out and really dehydrated yourself because of your love for coffee. So I like to think of having a cup of coffee and then having a big glass of water. Over time, I'm kind of trying to achieve a situation where I'm not dehydrated from drinking those beverages, but also part of the habit of drinking coffee is simply drinking something, and sometimes having a glass of water instead of coffee there next to me is just as good, and kind of relieves that need for something to drink or taking a mental break, whatever it is I do when I'm working, and also just sort of generally creates conditions for positivity there. Another option to add something is something that I work on in the wintertime is adding a new recipe to your arsenal. We get into habits, especially when it comes to particular meals like dinner, where you kind of have your go-to meals, 5 or 6 meals during the week. You're like, hey, I eat this every Monday, but hey, Sloppy Joe Mondays are awesome. Everybody loves Sloppy Joe Mondays. You can start to work in something else. You can throw some salmon in there. You can do something with quinoa. Maybe you're going to do something with, I talked to my buddy tonight. He's got chopped asparagus with fava beans over some kind of little bruschetta on sourdough bread. There's all sorts of crazy stuff you can do with food and make it fun and interesting and healthy for you. And so one other thing you can do there is just to add a new recipe. Hey, say one night a week you're going to cook a good dinner. Just a real nice, healthy dinner. Maybe some leftovers you can go ahead and save for next time. That is a positive introduction of food and good, healthy food into your lifestyle. So I say +1 because I want that first. Pick something positive. Eliminate 2 is when we go back and say, okay, what can I take away? So some things to take away that have worked for me in the past are eliminating that late night snack window. And my biggest enemy is willpower is low late at night. And it's very easy for me to just go get a bunch of cookies or some candy or whatever it is, because I want to have it. I crave part of it for dessert. That's just who I am as a human. I get it. But I could do with 4 jelly beans. Excuse me. I don't need 40 jelly beans, right? But it's easy, just a couple more handfuls, easy to do. And so I want to be very careful about that. So for me, I limited a late night snack and I replaced it with a protein shake, a glass of water with some protein in it, and some fruit as well. Okay. Something else I could take away is reducing or removing what I like to call trigger foods, foods that are kind of encourage you to go on and eat more of other stuff. For many of us, for me, alcohol is that trigger. If I have a drink, I'm more likely to eat chips or pretzels or something like that I would never otherwise just pick up a bag of chips and eat them. But in a social situation or something that people will normally serve with alcohol, I will do that. Other sort of enabling foods for me are like tiny little cookies, or I'm trying to think of some other things that I could possibly have. Whatever it is for you, it could be chocolate chips, it could be peppermint patties, it could be, I don't know, something salty, potato chips, Fritos, Cheetos, I don't know what it might be for you. Everyone's kind of got their poison. There's some kind of food out there, you just can't have one. So work with your family, work with the person who shops. Do your best to kind of eliminate 1 or 2 of those items out of the house, just to see if you can live without your Cheetos for a week. Odds are you'll be totally fine and you can eat something else, but it does take time to make that change. And if you don't have the buy-in of your family, they still insist on buying a mega pack of Cheetos, and every time you go to the pantry you see it there, it's not going to be easy for you to make your change. You might not be doing something right at home if they're still buying those Cheetos. I'm just saying. Another option on elimination side is to eliminate some supermarket aisles. There are some aisles in the supermarket you don't need to go. Do you need to go down that chip aisle or that snack aisle or that soda aisle? Are there other things you can get from the supermarket that will fill those spaces for you and still keep you healthy? There are some more dairy options if you're not lactose intolerant, or perhaps some more fruit or legumes or something like that will make you healthy and a happy athlete without having you run up and down the pasta aisle and fill up on pasta, right? Another option that some people have had success with, not necessarily myself, is eliminating, extra sugars, or as referred to inside the team, recreational sugar, sugar that is not already in the food that you're eating. Like apples have sugar in them, that's fine, there's fiber there, but putting 5 cups of sugar into your cup of coffee, maybe you can start to work that out of the whole equation, right? So finding places to take those extra sugars out of your food in a healthy way would be great. Some no sugar items have other artificial sweeteners in them. You want to be careful of those as well. But the point being, you can eliminate some of those sugars as well, and that will reduce, obviously, the calorie count of that food. Okay, so positive 1, eliminate 2. All right, think about it that way. Okay, the next stage of the body composition stuff is you want to give some time for these changes to set in. Bottom line is it takes about 6 weeks for you to see some healthy, sustainable change. So if you're getting on the scale every day, it's like day 42, you're finally starting to see the ramifications. Long-term ramifications is positive change. And the flip side is also true. About 6 weeks after, say, your big race, about 6 weeks later is when the number on the scale starts to send off alarm bells. Your metabolism starts to slow down after the races. You enter recovery mode and then inactivity mode. But you don't really notice it so much, or it goes up and down a little bit, so it's not so bad. It's not until about week 6 where things don't look good compared to what you'd like to see on the scale, and you're worried about it. That's about week 6. So it's a positive 6, it can also be a negative 6. So know that 6 week swing. Okay. I definitely recommend that you don't go cold turkey. If you say, I'm not going to drink or eat recreational sugar, maybe, cut down on the sugar you put in your coffee, or, cut down on the ice cream, say, incrementally, go from a big bowl of ice cream to a smaller bowl, and let your body adapt to the change. It's a mental thing. It's a psychological thing as much as it is a dietary thing. So we want to be mindful of that. Okay. I definitely recommend you aim for about 1 change a week. So it's not a great idea to say, I'm going to add this hydration thing Patrick talked about, do a much better job with all of my nutrition. I'm going to eliminate recreational sugar, and I'm going to restrict my calories to like 2,100 calories a day. That's 4 additional things to manage. That is, believe it or not, more often than not, too many new things to manage on top of home, work, social activities, general, brain activities. I mean, you still have all those, 80s songs that are perhaps the 90s boy band songs in your head. I mean, you can't eliminate those things. They're stuck in there forever. So you don't have room to manage all this other stuff. So pick a change, do it for a week, slowly give yourself time to build it into a habit, all right? I would also recommend that you look for changes outside of the scale. I mentioned this once or twice before, but I'll say it again. If you can notice improved sleep quality or better workouts, if you're lighter, you'll be faster when you're running, for example, at the same heart rate. You may just find yourself overall happy. Maybe you've gotten rid of that sort of afternoon crash, the sugar crash in your general day, whatever that may be. You may start to see some positive changes. For me, a lot of it is just seeing my kids eat a more healthy and diverse meal. I know that things are working for me, or I'm firing all cylinders when the dinner we have out is just a good dinner, because there are plenty of nights where that's not the case. And I know that I've definitely left something behind. I'm not giving 110%. Okay. Ultimately, what we're looking to do here is create a habit. So I recommend, using technology to your advantage. How do I use technology when I think about body composition? I shop for my food online. We're lucky to have a grocery delivery service here through Peapod. I shop all my food online because I can't buy stuff that I just happen to see, because I'm not going to see it when I'm online. It's also easy for me just to check and uncheck items that I've already ordered, and I have those things already built in, which is super nice as well. You can set reminders to help you, continue eating. One of the biggest issues that people have when they're managing body composition is they don't eat breakfast, or they don't eat until lunch, and they say no food. That's not so great. We want to eat something every 3 hours roughly as a competitive athlete. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be a handful of almonds, it could be a handful of pecans, it could be a cheese stick, it could be maybe an apple with some peanut butter, or something with some protein in there would be good. So set a reminder, like, oh, that's right, lunch at 10. You may not be hungry at 10, but by 11 you're usually ravenous. Lunch is still an hour away. That, my friends, is when you hit the vending machine. So use the reminders, use your smartphone, whatever it is, to make sure you're staying on top of that. Okay. Ideally, you can kind of get better simply through better organization. Like you can get, you make better food choices by being organized. So maybe having a good food shopping list, etc. You can ideally even start focusing on things like, say, sleep, which sounds like an odd component to think about body composition, but sleep is very restorative. You need to eat after you wake up because you've been fasting. Don't want to eat too close to when you go to bed. And ultimately, food, in addition to your exercise level, will really change. A change in food and the diet taken will really show up in your sleep patterns, and how you feel about your sleep. So you want to take a look at those items as well. Last but not least, before I go, one last piece here. I hope you're typing your questions, folks. I'll stick around a little bit later because this is going long. Before I leave you, I want to remind you, nutrition, it's a double-edged sword. It can help you. It can also hurt you. I'm 185 pounds right now. I like to be 180 pounds, say on race day. Losing those 5 pounds, it's hard to do, but I can still be there and race well and be healthy. I could probably be 175 pounds, but if I did that, I literally would be going backwards. I'd be exhausted. I'd have no place to keep my glycogen on me. It would just not be fun. It would be great to be perhaps on a beach somewhere in a nice swimsuit looking nice, but not so great for racing, which is ultimately my goal, and just general wellness as well. So be very careful. You're a type A triathlete. You're very committed. You have superpowers, and you can abuse those superpowers. Just like Superman turned the earth backwards to save Lois Lane, you too might make some choices that have some negative downstream consequences for you and your body and your trains. To be very, very smart. Be positive with your changes, okay? Another thing that I recommend to people, especially early on thinking about nutrition, depending on the severity or the scope of the change you're trying to make, you may want to work in a cheat day or a cheat meal where you get to have all the food that you like to have. So maybe Saturday nights you say, you know what, it's okay for me to drink some wine and to have a piece of pie for dessert because it's my day. I still get to be normal. That's a very positive aspect to your diet. You're still getting in some of those foods that you enjoy, but you're having them in moderation because the time window is pretty constricted. Okay, and finally, I really encourage you to celebrate your wins, but don't punish the setbacks, okay? You know, like if you lose a pound, or you get into a new size of jeans, or you're running and you feel better, or your sleep patterns are more awesome, or you've eliminated the afternoon sugar crash, etc. Celebrate that. That is awesome. But if something goes wrong, if you find yourself a little bit heavier, or you miss one of those sort of additional change-related items, don't punish yourself. It's not bad. We don't want to associate the hard work of changing your body composition with anything negative. We want it to be, challenging enough that the results are rewarding and they have a long-term impact both on your race performance, but your overall health. Okay. And one of the reasons, again, to get back into the start of this conversation that I talk about this now, is the wintertime is a fantastic time to start chipping away. You can make a 500 calorie deficit, and across a week, that's about a pound. You can lose a pound a week across 2 or 3 months. That's not undoable. It's very manageable. It's not that stressful. And when you come in and say, hey, I need to lose 20 pounds, in 6 weeks, then that becomes a real challenge. You're talking about 3 pounds a week. That's a massive caloric deficit, exactly when most of your training hits, which is a total recipe for disaster. Okay, so you want to be really mindful of setting yourself up for success and also celebrating that success. I think it's really easy to kind of miss out on some of those awesome things, okay? Again, as a reminder, those of you on the team, please go ahead and put your questions in the chat box. Those of you who are not tuned in live can always head over to social media, ask us questions on Facebook, or you can reach out to us with the @TeamEN, @TeamEN on Twitter, twitter.com/TeamEN. You can send us a message and ask us about this webinar. I'll be happy to walk you through everything. All right, so that said, let me head over there and see what people are chit-chatting away, see if we have any questions in here. Oh my goodness, look at all these people in here. Don, Carrie, Julie, John, Damon. Oh my goodness, look at all these people here. All right, good questions. Some people are asking me specifically what type of exercise nutrition. We have some information on the website for the team on the types of exercise nutrition we recommend. If I have anything to say about sort of training and racing nutrition, so I encourage you to start with simple first. Start with what's on the course, see how that works for you, see how you adapt to it, see if it works. A lot of times, people will start going off the reservation, picking up different nutritional choices, and it's not so much a decision based on necessity. They're just doing it because everyone else seems to be drinking or eating this stuff. And that's not necessarily the best way to make your nutritional choices. Everyone's body is different. You and I can both go ride 50 miles, and I need, 4 power bars and 3 things of sports drink, and you need a glass of water, and we go just fine. Everyone's different. You learn about that over time, and you want to be mindful of that. So as you're making those nutritional changes, do them incrementally, be smart about them. Start with hydration first before you start with the food, and then ultimately be open, be receptive to the changes that you'll see, but don't make things harder than they need to be. Don't over-engineer them. We definitely don't want that by any means. Okay. Let's see. Another question here is specifically related to post-workout food. How do you handle recovery food when you're also trying to restrict calories? In general, my approach is pretty consistent with our partners at the Core Diet, which is to say that you want your exercise nutrition to always be good. So that includes the 15 minutes before, the duration of your exercise, and then the recovery window afterwards. So at no point in time do you want to have bad nutrition. So the way that they describe it, and that I really enjoy saying, is that let's say you eat normally 2,000 calories a day, and you've taken off 300 calories for this caloric deficit, so you're down to 1,700 calories a day. Pretty light on the calories there. Be careful. As you're in that space, now we get to insert some workouts on top of that, and that is an opportunity to create more stress and burn more calories. But if those workouts are the type of workouts that are pushing you into a bigger hole, or they're longer workouts, you're going to need fuel to do the work required to get the muscles, the legs, everything, burning the calories enough to really create a positive change down the line. So don't miss out on this opportunity to really make those workouts better. A lot of times people will think about places to cut calories and they'll say, well, I can't change my breakfast, but I can stop eating all those bars and gels. That'll cut the calories. But we never want to create a condition where you run out of energy in a workout or you're relatively unhappy. Success in a longer race, whether it's a full race or a half race, is almost completely predicated upon ability to execute nutrition. And so we don't want to miss out on this opportunity to develop, routine and test the routine over time, so that if and when you're in a real race situation, you know exactly what to do. You're able to make positive decisions. The adaptations you need to focus on. All these things come together to make you, a smarter and healthier runner. All right. Let's see if we have any other questions. I don't see any other questions. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and for listening. As an update, I want to point out that our training camps are being pushed out there right now. You'll find training camps for many of the major races here in the U.S., from Texas to Placid to Chattanooga. There's camps where you get to do some learning, do plenty of training, train and learn, and then train again and learn from the second training about the first learning, then learn again. And it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of camaraderie. So we have plenty of training camps coming up for next year. You can definitely check those all out at endurancenation.us. If you'd like to create your free trial or you like this podcast, please check us out online. You can find us at endurancenation.us, and you can feel free to create a free 7-day trial there by going to endurancenation.us/join. This is Coach Patrick signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in for this week, December 8th, nightly coach chat. Stay tuned next week for Coach Rich's next presentation. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you guys online or at the races.